Missing someone. Missing someone. Missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone.
2012, a family was living in this house in Villisca in the USA. Now, they were a happy family and they'd actually lived there for a while. And they all lived pretty happily in this house. One night they actually had the neighbour's 2 kids over to stay for a sleepover. So that night they all went to bed just like normal. But then things got weird. In the early morning the neighbour went round to get her kids and found all 8 people brutally murdered on the floor, on the murder weapon, an axe. However, there was no signs of forced entry, not even a broken glass, and all the doors were locked when she got there. So
black-eyed children are supposedly the devil's children. These children have pale skin with solid black eyes. The ages range from 6 years old all the way up to 16. The story I'm about to tell will literally leave chills on your body. Okay, so sightings of these children have been recorded all the way back to the 1990s. During the 1990s, internet wasn't as popular as it is now, which is a very important detail because fake news couldn't spread that fast like it could now. A woman was sleeping in her bed when her dog started to growl. The dog was growling in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. so the woman woke up and peeked out of her window to see what the dog was growling at. The lady peeks through her blinds and sees a woman just staring at her front door. The lady then cracked the door open to see if maybe this woman needed help. The woman just stared at her and said, "Can I come inside?" The lady said she refused the offer and said no, and the lady's eyes turned solid black. Thousands of people from all different countries reported the same kind of sightings. Ironically, all of the reports are about people refusing to help these black-eyed children. So the real question is, what happened to the people who let the children in? So what do you think? Do you think all of these thousands of people are lying, or do you think there's something much darker inside?
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Nevada. Terry McClure disappeared after leaving her son Tim's wedding in Lake Tahoe in 1983. 3 days later, she was found dead in a Carson City casino parking lot. Tim and Terry were really close, they even lived together, and so he was very upset when he found out that his mother was found in the parking lot and that she had been shot in the head twice. She was also believed to have died the night of his wedding. The police actually started looking at Tim as the main suspect in Terry's murder. They said they had circumstantial evidence that pointed at him for being responsible for her murder. Something that the police found very suspicious was that the day before her disappearance, he canceled all of her credit cards. And a few months before her death, Terry had taken out a $10,000 life insurance policy with Tim as the co-beneficiary. In other words, if she dies, he gets $10,000. Tim was arrested after he appeared on the show Unsolved Mysteries, but the case was dismissed when the DA declined to prosecute him. And some of Tim's family members publicly state that they think
100-year-old house. And as beautiful as the house was, there was this very dark energy coming from it, and she thought it was caused by the doll that she bought. The doll was named Amelia, and she was made in 1994. And what's incredibly creepy is that when the woman first bought the doll, her eyes were blue. And everything was fine for years, but one day the doll's eyes turned this bright green. It basically just happened overnight without any explanation. And that is when weird things started happening in the house. She got woken up every night by a crying baby, and she'd walk around the house and wouldn't be able to find any source of the sound. She would also hear doors slamming and her floor creaking. It always sounded like someone was walking towards her bedroom. So she had some paranormal investigators come to her house, and they immediately found out that it was the doll causing all these.
Listen to your teacher. Once something terrifying happened to Sophia when she got to school. She went to class as usual when her teacher burst into the room and said, "Sophia, I have some bad news." She was shocked and embarrassed to be called out like that in front of her whole class. Her teacher then said, "Get your things. I just got off the phone with your father. He said your mom was in a horrible accident and he's gonna pick you up now and take you to the hospital." Sophia instantly froze in horror. She tried to explain, but her teacher kept interrupting her. "Why are you just standing around? Get your things now." But Sophia wouldn't move. She knew something wasn't right. She said, "I don't have a father. He passed away long ago and I never got to meet him. I was raised by a single mother all my life." To this day, Sophia still doesn't know who that man was claiming to be her father and what he planned to do if she had gone with him. This is why you should never jump to conclusions. Once there was a woman named Elena who was coming home from a business trip. She was so excited to see her husband and son, but when she got home, only her son was there. Confused, Elena asked her son, "Where's your father?" And he replied, "He's upstairs with a girl." Instantly, Elena had a terrible feeling. Still, she decided to walk upstairs slowly and open the bedroom door. There, she saw her husband with another woman. Her husband tried to explain, but Elena wasn't listening. She ran downstairs, grabbed a knife from the kitchen, and ran back upstairs. Without another word, words, she attacked her husband, then looked at the other woman and said, "You're next." But what the other woman said after that shocked Elena and made her burst into tears. She said Elena's husband thought she wouldn't be home until tomorrow and she was the party planner that he hired. He was planning a party for her. After that, Elena walked downstairs, grabbed her son, and left. No one has ever seen her or her son again. A man who married a woman with long black hair and brown eyes. He thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, but soon things went terribly wrong. Over the years, her appearance changed, but he couldn't handle it. He didn't like that she gained weight or that her face now had wrinkles on it. For that reason, he quickly divorced her and found a different girl. This would be a horrifying mistake. The new girl was much younger and had long blonde hair. Within weeks, he married her, but as soon as they moved in, he noticed that she completely changed. She wasn't sweet and polite anymore. She became rude and used him for money. One night, he couldn't take it anymore. He got in his car, left the city, and drove back to his ex-wife's house. And what he saw there shocked him. The house was abandoned. He knocked on the door, but no one answered, so he went in. And there, sitting in their old bedroom, was his ex-wife with her long black hair covering her face. He hugged her and cried, explaining how he regretted leaving her. And that's when she said, "I'm glad you're back, if only for a moment." The man said, "What do you mean? I'm back for good. We can spend our lives together." Then he brushed her hair out of her face and screamed. All that's left was a skull. That's when the man looked down and realized he'd been holding nothing but a pile of bones in his hands. A man who married a woman with long black hair and brown eyes. He thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, but soon things went terribly wrong. Over the years, her appearance changed, but he couldn't handle it. He didn't like that she gained weight or that her face now had wrinkles on it. For that reason, he quickly divorced her and found a different girl. This would be a horrifying mistake. The new girl was much younger and had long blonde hair. Within weeks, he married her, but as soon as they moved in, he noticed that she completely changed. She wasn't sweet and polite anymore. She became rude and used him for money. One night, he couldn't take it anymore. He got in his car, left the city, and drove back to his ex-wife's house. And what he saw there shocked him. The house was abandoned. He knocked on the door, but no one answered, so he went in. And there, sitting in their old bedroom, was his ex-wife with her long black hair covering her face. He hugged her and cried, explaining how he regretted leaving her. And that's when she said, "I'm glad you're back, if only for a moment." The man said, "What do you mean? I'm back for good. We can spend our lives together." Then he brushed her hair out of her face and screamed. All that's left was a skull. That's when the man looked down and realized he'd been holding nothing but a pile of bones in his hands.
This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia who lived a very quiet life decided to check her homework assignments that were posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, "Let's start presenting our project." Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, "Where did you get this photo?" Olivia says, "My dad keeps them in his drawer." The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, "Local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing." The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, "Your mom has been dead for 14 years.
This is why you should always watch videos to the end. In 2003, a woman came home to her apartment to see that her door was unlocked. She went inside, nothing was missing, so she assumed she must have left it open. When it happened a few more times, but still nothing was missing in her apartment, she went out and got a camera, set it up in her apartment aimed at the front door. The next day, her door was unlocked, so she reviewed the footage. She watches in horror as late in the night, her front door opens and in walks this tall, creepy man who looks around and then walks towards her bedroom off camera. She immediately sprints out of her apartment and calls the police, who show up and tell her to go back in her apartment and just try to stay calm, and that they would put an officer right outside her door so she's safe. As she's sitting on the bed, totally traumatized, she realizes something. She only saw him enter her apartment on that video. She doesn't know if he actually left. As she's sitting there, she feels breathing on her ankles. She runs out, the cop comes in, and he finds the tall, creepy man under the bed holding a knife and a camera. This is why you should always lock your doors. A junior in high school was home alone working on a paper while his parents were out to dinner. All night he sits with his back to his door, sitting at his desk with his noise-canceling headphones on. Around 11 o'clock he takes his headphones off at the same time his parents are returning to the house, and he hears his mom from downstairs yell, "Hey Adrian, what happened?" Confused, he runs downstairs and sees right away what she's looking at, muddy footprints all over the rug. He tells her, "I didn't leave my desk." And then they realize someone must have broken in. They look at the footprints and there's none leaving the house. They're worried someone's still in the house, so they run into the garage, terrified, call the police. Police arrive and they don't find anyone in the house, but they do make a chilling discovery upstairs. The police bring them to the kid's bedroom door, which had been left open all night, and they point to the message written on it in Sharpie. This is the actual transcript of what was written on his door, which means for nearly 2 hours, someone stood in this kid's doorway watching him.